Hello, I'm Craig Constantine.
Hello, I'm Leekei Tang.
Hi, Leekei. Thank you for inviting me to join you for a cup of coffee. This one sounds a little different. Leekei and I were exchanging some messages over LinkedIn, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to join me at a cafe?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's mean. Yes, I would very much love to join you for un tasse de café, mais je pense it's too far."
Yeah, well, I think you forgot to mention that I'm in Paris. Did you say that? No, you didn't.
No, I didn't say that. So Leaky is torturing me by sitting in front of Les Grandes Marches, which is the Great Steps or the Great Stair. Just out, what's the full name of the Bastille? Just next to
Sorry?
what's the Bastille's full name? The
It's
yeah.
it's the Bastille. There's
Yeah,
no
it's like the Great Fort or something. I mean, but the Bastille is a very, very classic tourist place to go visit, and there's a great big square. And so she's torturing me by sitting in a cafe. But I would love to come and visit Paris. Paris is really nice. And also, I forgot that you're about 5 hours ahead of me. So it looks like it's getting into the evening. So, like, the sun is going to start, the color is going to change.
Yes,
Anyway,
yes,
so that's what, if you're listening, who's listening? That's what you hear in the background. And occasionally the Pompiers de Paris will go by.
sure, yeah.
I once saw them. I thought they didn't do this anymore, but I once saw them pull a cat off of someone's balcony. I thought they refused to do that anymore, but I saw that happen a few years ago.
They
Uh,
don't do it
um,
anymore. They don't do it anymore.
Apparently, it became such a cliche. They're like, "This is an annoying waste of our time." So, but anyway, um, so we do, as I say many times, a little conversation before we press record. And Leaky was talking about, you mentioned, I'm equally curious to know about how podcasting fits into what you do. But let's start with exploration. So you were explaining to me that you use podcasting, or that you sort of um, explore, you like force yourself to explore by giving yourself gifts for your birthday. And that's how you got into podcasting, was like, I'm going to do this for myself because then it doesn't have to have a goal. And then you were talking about exploration. So can you tell me, was there something special about podcasting that made you think it would be maybe fun or challenging, so that you wouldn't feel like you needed to have a goal? Like, what drew you to podcasting to make that be your gift for yourself?
Well, I've always been interested in audio as a medium
Hmm.
because I listen a lot to radio, and I did a little bit of recording since as soon as I have my handphone, I realized I can make recording with it. I started recording people around me because I think it's such an easy way to get to share, to make it to make people share their stories. And I've been a big consumer of podcasts, but I've never thought that I will have a podcast one day. The story is that my birthday is in August. And as you know, everybody's on holiday in August, including me. And so it was 2 years ago in August. I was on holiday in a very small, charming village, fishing village, and I was having a great time with my family. But I have this thing. I like to treat myself for my birthday because I have to be nice to myself, right, and remind myself. And at the end of the day, I just thought, okay, well, it's almost midnight, but I haven't bought anything for myself. And really, and I check my email, and I saw this email from Seth Godin and say, "Oh, why don't you launch a podcast?" And the email for the podcasting fellowship. And I thought, "Oh, wow, that's why not?
Perfect timing, right?
Perfect timing." Yeah, I love podcasting. I love listening to podcasts. I mean, I love listening to podcasts, and why not learn some skills? But I never thought I will be having a podcast myself. But because because I did something that I had no intention to start, which is quite funny because it's a gift. But usually when I do something, I'm quite focused. And this is, I think, it's how my brain is wired. I've
Mm.
been trained this way. Whenever you do something, you have to have a goal. What if not, you're wasting your time. But for this time, I thought, okay, why don't let myself just be part of it and just let be guided. you know and the
Right.
podcasting fellowship is perfect for that, because we are, there's the I mean, you've been through that, so I mean, most of the listeners have been through that. So there's no way, I mean, unless you decide not to connect to the platform, not to be on the platform, you have no way but to make progress. And so yeah, and so I tried to play the game and say, okay, there's this new step, what I'm going to do. And so little by little, I built my trailer, my introduction, my, the different things. And then I thought, okay, it ended sometime in, I think, in October. And I thought, okay, I'm going to launch a podcast next year. I'll do it. I'll launch it. I make
Mm.
the official launch on the 1st of January. But then there's this, I think it's called Podcast Pro program. It's like an after program that is led by David Nowinski and Maria. And so there were a couple of people, like a dozen of people, and say, okay, why don't we do it a little bit? It's another a step further. And so we had targets every week, and because I decided to let myself be fully in the game, I launched my podcast. And then there was something that's quite funny, because when I started launching the podcast, I think David insisted that we have to do it every week. We have to launch an episode, ship an episode every
Ship it,
single week.
right.
But it was real difficult for me
Mm.
because when I didn't set time to. I didn't realize that it would take me so much time to do it, and because I was still at the learning stage, I didn't want to outsource anything. So I was doing it was eating up my time, and it came to a stage that I was cheating myself because that's part of the exploration. I was cheating myself because I couldn't do the one episode every week. I decided to cut the conversation into two, and have an episode split into 2 weeks. But then I thought, no, that's cheating, and I should not do that. I should not do that, because I posted the first part, but then I thought the conversation is so good, I want to listen to the next part. but
Mm. So
but
what were your
then yeah.
first recorded conversations about? I'm wondering, how did you get from, if you went into it all with such an open exploration with no idea of a goal, how did you get from there to using podcasting as part of your business to help people in the fashion industry explore their own thinking? Like these are two completely different things. Like what did you start with for your first conversations, and how did you get from one to the other?
Right. I'm my part of my business is to help purpose-driven fashion business founders grow the business, and there's so many iconic stories in the fashion industry, because it's a lot of things are based on communication, and yeah, and then I thought, okay, if I try to, instead of looking at fashion stories, what if I look at people that are not in fashion business, and what we could learn from those people. So my first conversation was, well, actually, the first person that accepted to be on my podcast. I'm very grateful for her time and for her for for playing the game with me, is someone from South Africa who lives in Australia and who has launched a networking business for migrants. And I thought, wow, that's perfect. That's nothing to do with, that's nothing to do
Right.
with the fashion business and with Paris and France, but she's running a purpose-driven business, and so let's talk to her and see what we can learn from that. And yeah, and then I've been talking to people that are working in another in other sectors, and I really enjoy that, because I think that the what do you call it, the richness, the innovation in a lot of different areas where you don't expect it, and when you least expect it. And talking to other people, there's so many things that you could learn from another sector and could apply to the business, and it's how you
Yeah,
make it grow
access
to.
to access to their other perspectives, and you realize that the problems they're solving are actually pretty similar. Yeah, that's interesting that you were able to think, I'm going to say outside the box, but to think from the very beginning that you could use this tool, podcasting, that you could use this tool um, to like go like in my mind, I'm picturing like, well, I want to help these people over here to my left. I'm going to take the tool and I'm going to go and interview these people that are completely apparently separate. Like these two groups are completely different. I think that's very insightful to use the tool to find gems and to bring those to the people that you're trying to serve. Um, have you found that? I'm just wondering how people in the fashion industry react to audio as the thing.
Well, first of all, some people don't understand what I'm doing. Some people don't understand. Well, you are helping fashion business owners. Well, why are you talking to people that are teaching yoga or running a network?
Yeah, industry or something. Yeah,
Yeah, and so some people don't understand, but some people do. And no, they initially no, not many people were listening to podcasts because the fashion business is mostly visual.
sure,
And
sure.
so it's not a medium for the fashion industry, and it's still not. But there are people that are more advanced in like in any sector that are on the edge and looking for new things, and those people will appreciate that. And
Yeah, we
yeah,
all talk about niche, right? So you don't have to be the best in the world. You have to be the best in the niche that you're in. And it sounds like, okay, if the vast majority of people in the fashion industries aren't interested, that's okay. But there's going to be that niche of people who are interested in some new medium. What can I find in this, from their point of view, completely unexplored space? They've never done anything in terms of trying to learn from audio. So I think that's a really well positioned place to be.
it wasn't intentional, really.
Uh,
It wasn't intentional, but because I've started it, and but I think it's just like when you have a habit and your mind is framed in a certain way, it's really difficult to get rid of it. So
mm.
because I spent so much time working on this podcast, which is, well, somehow when it started, it was a labor of love. But then when I was starting to struggle to get things out, I say, okay, that's it. That's okay. You have to sit back and
Yeah,
really,
it turns into a slog.
yeah.
Do you?
Why?
I'm wondering about the. You mentioned that, and I can totally see where this comes from. You mentioned that the people that who are listening to your podcast, they're like incredulous. Why are you interviewing this person about yoga, or why you're from their point of view, you're off in the weeds. And I'm wondering if you've tried to do anything. Um, so let's say you're going to interview me and I'm in the automotive industry. Do you introduce me and try to explain why what I have to say is meaningful or useful to people in the fashion industry? Or do you try to like strip it down so that they don't know who the person is? Like, I'm just wondering, like, what you've experimented with or what you might be doing to try to sneak the lesson in? Like, how do you get people in the fashion industry to listen to what these people have to say?
Well, when I start the conversation, I don't ask the person to make an introduction because I just Well, actually, now
I
I
agree
have a.
with you.
Yeah, I don't want them to make an introduction because I want them. Well, that's a lot of work, but I after I edit the whole episode, I make the introduction. I write the introduction because I want the introduction to reflect the main points, the main
Right.
things that have been said during the conversation, and so I just let them talk. But I have I have I call it conversation guide or something because there are certain things I want to know about them, and because well, the topics um are, I think most are really around the topic of why you're doing this. You know, the why of your business, the why are you going, why you're different, and what is the change you're trying to make with your business.
Mm.
And so that's a question. That's a question that is not that's well I should not say that it's not that's a question that's not often asked, but the way I ask it is quite different because because I know that my podcast, if I do my podcast and interview the same people asking the same questions like everybody else, I will have no value because there are not many people that will listen to my podcast. So if it's for like the 10th time the person will say the exact thing, that has total no value. So what I'm always trying to do um, is to lead them to share another part of the story. Like for example, I interviewed this designer who's quite known in the fashion industry. She's a knitwear designer, and the part of the story that is known in the fashion community is that her designs have been copied by Chanel on one of the catwalk, and she sued them, and she won she she won the case. So this is the part of the story that everybody knows, and I see no value in asking her to share this um this
Same thing again,
the same
right?
thing again. So I ask her, I try to get deeper into the why she's doing what she's doing, why she's doing, why she's creating this design, and try to understand, yeah, and to push her to get deeper and deeper, and up to the point that at the end of the conversation, she thanked me. She said that I help her. She said that I'm a good interviewer, which I really, really believe that I'm not uh, because I'm not. I know that I'm not. uh, but I think it's just by trying to share her story from another angle. Sorry about that. Yeah, to lead her to tell a story from another perspective. That's I think somehow I help her bring another perspective to her own journey. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Yeah, definitely. When you talk with someone and you create a space for them, it gives them the chance to like unpack and in their head they think, they open that can and they go like, that's not worth sharing. That's not worth sharing. And they eventually go, oh, but this thing at the bottom that I wouldn't have maybe gotten to if I hadn't had the time to talk with you about it. So that creation of space, that's like one of the biggest, most important parts.
I think it's creation of space. Yes, yes, yeah. But what I do as well is that, but because the person is known for that, for special topic, I'll make a brief. I mentioned that in the introduction, so my listeners could relate to say, "Oh, this is this person," and then, "Oh,
Hmm.
well, I'm going to learn another aspect of her journey."
It's really interesting. I'm just like fixated on serving people, it's like to Venn diagrams that don't overlap. The people that I'm serving are in one space and I'm trying to get the knowledge, the gems, the wisdom from this other group that they wouldn't normally interact with. And I think that's a really thoughtful way. Like you're really you're setting yourself up for the hard work. Like you're really picking the difficult, like, okay, I see something in this person that I think would be useful. And then I have to like Not that what the person has to say is unnecessary, but you have to really like find where's the piece that's going to land with the people I'm serving.
Yeah, but I think the gem is at the intersection
Mm,
of different stories or different approaches. It's like when you pieces different things that initially don't make sense together, but you
mm,
just try to put them aside, or then you realize, oh wow, you have you can have moments of serendipity.
mm. Yeah, you find the connection that actually was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, as much as I always hate to say it, I think that's a good place to stop for today.
Oh,
Doesn't have to be our only conversation. I'm just watching the time. Um, so, Leekei, it was a pleasure. And I keep seeing the, I guess they don't call them garçon anymore. The waiter keeps like going behind you, and I keep
sorry.
waving. I keep waving at him. No, I'm trying to distract him. I'm like, bon, addition, s'il vous plaît.
Sorry.
Cool. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time out. And if you haven't eaten yet, I hope you have something delicious and maybe a glass of wine if that's your
No, Perrier.
Perrier. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's a lovely conversation.